One of the most powerful insights I've taken as a truth of my experiences that I'm a human being.
Welcome to the Council of Dudes podcast. I'm your host, Vinny Brusco. I am a father, a husband, the founder of Agora Social Club, a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a certified life coach, and a facilitator of the Council of Dudes men's group. This podcast is here to help you tap into and follow your golden thread, that feeling that pulls you forward to become the best version of yourself. If you're someone who's into personal development and self-help and is looking to live a life of more alignment, then this is the podcast for you. Subscribe to the channel, click the notification button, and follow along on the journey of the show.
Yo, guys, I'm Eben Britton. You're listening to the Council of Dudes podcast. Enjoy it.
And here we go.
Oh, just, existing, I guess. I don't know.
That's a good way to put it.
My recent answer when people ask me how I'm doing, I say it depends on the category. Because certain categories, thank God, kids are healthy, wife is healthy, things are going well. And then you have like these other categories where like it could be going better. And then you have other ones like it's a fucking disaster. So all the important categories are all going very well, thank God. And then just working on the other ones.
Nice, dude.
How about yourself?
I'm good, man. Yeah, I'm good. I mean, I love that answer. And things are good, man. Everybody's good and healthy, and what can I say?
That's all sometimes that's enough, right?
Bro.
I have this 5-minute journal that I tend not to do as much as I need to, but every time I go into it, it starts with like, what are you grateful for? And I was doing it for like a good stretch. And in the beginning, I was just writing like the simple things like my health, waking up today, my family, my relationship with God, right? And then I was like, am I doing this wrong? I feel like I need to be being grateful for like the future and manifesting the future. And I was like, no, you're doing it just how you should be doing it.
Yeah, dude, you're doing it right. You're doing it right.
Thank you. I don't know when I started following you. It was somewhere a while back. And for someone who, you're a big guy, you have a big presence, you have a big, robust voice, right? Former NFL player. To be in a state of consciousness that you're in, to have this energetic projection, although it's through a phone, right? Let's add that caveat, but you could tell you could tell the authenticity, you could feel the energy through it. It's a bit of an anomaly, but at the same time, I think we're seeing more and more of it, especially in the men's space, of guys stepping into these different roles that we traditionally and culturally have always had, but now due to societal norms and expectations and this version of reality, we've put to the side. So how did you go from this big, robust NFL player to this person who's enlightened or on the path of enlightened and self-actualized?
I would say out of necessity, dude. I was beaten to shit by the chaos in my mind and my heart, and I just had to start learning how to live in a new way, learning how to reframe my relationship to myself and the world. And, that's been a long journey. It's been a process that continues always. It's taken a lot of forms. It's come through meditation. It's come through, as a lifetime athlete, I was gifted with a really intimate relationship with my body. So understanding the power of movement and nutrition and taking good care of my body, that's fundamental. But when I got that stuff in order after my football career, I realized my head and my heart were still a disaster, you know? And so I had to start looking at these things, choices I had made, behaviors, patterns, escape valves, uh, you know, in a new way, and starting to acknowledge them and acknowledge the pain that they were causing me, the suffering that they were causing me, which in turn was causing me to inflict pain on other people. I've never been in a physically abusive guy, but I haven't always been so kind as I am now. And it really, to answer your question, dude, it came out of necessity. Like I had to do it. Otherwise, I was going to fucking implode and explode. And that could have been suicide. I've been on at the doorstep of that a couple times in my life. And the thing that kept me from going to the other side is really just having faith to take one more step and courage to either reach out for help or do the thing that open my mouth and express the thing that was necessary to begin the process of reconciliation. Um, so, it came out of necessity. I mean, and much of my growth, much of my journey, I would say, has happened through necessity. I haven't necessarily done it because I wanted to,
Right.
you know. And I think for a lot of people, like I didn't want to until I realized that was all I wanted, you know.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, you hear a lot of people, they hit like that rock bottom, and it seems to be
Yeah,
like I know for me personally, it was just kind of like a this is it type of thing. Like this is all I do, and there has to be more to this life than just working and making money and having a nice car and a nice apartment. Like this doesn't seem like this is it. When you say that, it was your head and your heart, was it that they weren't in alignment with each other? They weren't in alignment with the world? They weren't in alignment at all? Did you even have the repertoire of experience to pull from to know what alignment felt like?
I think the concept of alignment wasn't
Right.
wasn't in my thought process at all.
But you had to have felt alignment in your past in some
Yeah,
version of it, right? So you were able to extrapolate something to say, because if you didn't, then you wouldn't have the sensibility to say something's off right now.
100%. And I think that wherever we are, and I come from a pretty interesting background, both of my parents lifetime athletes and artists, and my mom was taking me to yoga classes from the time I was 10, and my dad is a very interestingly spiritual individual, painter, artist, D1 basketball player. So there was a sense of spirituality. I always felt a sense of a higher power in my life. Um, didn't always understand, what that meant or what it looked like or what it felt like. Didn't always understand what it felt like. And so, you know, I think that anybody, myself included, I mean, fuck, all I can really speak from is my own experience. And in turn, through that experience and doing men's groups, doing 12-step programs, doing all sorts of community work, because I think that's really where the rubber meets the road, is when you connect with others and you share and you can you can have discourse on the path that's been taken, and you start to connect the dots and see the universal truths in the human experience. And so I think that wherever you come from, whoever you are, there, at least in the Western world, there inevitably comes a moment where you feel like you're out of alignment. And maybe you don't have that vocabulary, but you feel like things are not where they're supposed to be, or you've gone astray, or you feel lost, or something's missing, or, and for me, it was really like chaotic thinking, literally. I mean, that's what I meant by, the chaos in the head and the heart. And it was just like, my mind was just in a fucking, a tornado of shoulds, and if I don't, then I have to. If I don't, I'm fucked. I'm a failure. If I do this, then this will happen. It was like a very uh, chaotic and typical psychological framework of someone who comes out of a family of alcoholism, which is what I came out of. While alcohol wasn't necessarily my issue, that psychological map, which is specific enough, it's a lot of catastrophic thinking. It's, very black and white thinking. It's chaotic, it's hectic, there's not a lot of space in there.
Mm.
And then my heart, the part about my heart was just like I hadn't really dealt with things ever, you know? I'd been through some traumatic shit in my childhood that I'd never looked at, because of football, which was a great gift. And I channeled a lot of that rage into my football career, which made me the player that I was. But then coming out of it, and you don't have this blanket anymore that nice and neatly kind of covers everything up. Now you've got to look underneath and see what's there. And I had never done that. I'd never looked at, my relationship with women, my relationship with substances, my need to escape myself anytime I felt uncomfortable through various means, whether that was alcohol, porn, women, pills, cannabis. It's taken many forms. And starting to look at like what's going on here, what's going on with Eb. Who is Eb underneath all this stuff, underneath the fucking armor of the football garb, the helmet, the shoulder pads, underneath the shoulders, underneath the rib cage, like down at the core of this guy. Who is that? Who am I?
Mm.
And when I finally started to, when I hit rock bottom and I was just very gently, pointed in the direction of a solution, which for me to begin with was an all men's group of Al Anon. Al Anon is a 12-step program for families of alcoholics. And we say in Al Anon, I don't have a drinking disease, but I have a thinking disease. And, it's everything that it's almost more neurotic and insane than the alcoholic, because it's all about how do I manipulate other people to keep myself safe, to keep the situation manageable, because they could fly off the handle, or they're gonna fucking be in a blackout rage because they're drunk, or whatever the thing is. So for me, that initial solution came in this all men's group, all men's Al-Anon meeting, which, I went in there and this guy started talking about his childhood, and it sounded like he was talking about my childhood, and I just fucking burst into tears. And I spent the next hour just crying in this room. And that was a couple years after I'd left the NFL. And And it was just like, man, the clouds parted, a beam of sunlight came through. I
Right.
felt like I could breathe for the first time in my life, you know? And it just started this process of like peeling back the layers and seeing what's underneath and starting to tune into what's really going on in here, you know?
Hmm.
And that was the beginning. It led me into therapy. That therapist led me to meditation. I came back to yoga, met a couple men who became really important mentors for me in my life after football, who just kind of gave me tools. They just gave me tools and gave me the compass and said, okay, Ed, you know, you know where you got to go.
Yeah.
If you build, he will come.
The point is, don't lose your dinosaur.
Mentors are it's funny because we do know where we're going, right? For me, um, I refer to it as following the golden thread, right?
Mm,
And it was at one of the men's group meetings that I facilitated that I felt this piece of golden yarn going through the room and almost and saw it like it was there, but it wasn't there. It was wild.
love that.
And I went home and I talked to my wife. I was like, I feel so fulfilled right now. Like I feel like I ate a Thanksgiving dinner. That's the only thing I can explain. I was like, I feel like I just ate Thanksgiving and I just feel so fulfilled. And it has expressed itself since then in a multitude of ways that I couldn't even imagine. But all I was really going for was that thing, whatever that is, however it shows up in the world, I'm going after that. And however it's expressed, wherever it takes me, there's gonna be turns. I'm following that thing. And having those mentors along the way, they can offer you some insight and perspective. And it's definitely one of the powerful things about doing the men's group work is that you're learning that everyone's going through different things, but it's all the same shit, just expressed in these different ways, right? It's all the same story when you start to turn it and twist it and turn it over, whether your kid's a newborn in college, we're all having these same dynamics and this humanistic experience, but it's being expressed in this new way. And as when you could tap into that version of yourself that's being guided by something that's not a mentor, that's not a men's group, that you truly can't even put words to, it adds a whole new level of experience of life.
No doubt, man. No doubt. No doubt. And I think that to your point, I think, and to add context to my story, we follow it, and until we really recognize it and understand what it is, we'll veer off course, you know.
Mm.
We'll veer off course, we'll get sucked into things that are, you know, seductive and shiny and exciting, and it's like, ooh, that looks really nice and it feels good, but then that leads you into the pit of despair and you're lost. And then you got to go, okay, well, where's that thing that was
It's
guiding me
it's a
before?
different alleyway. It's like, oh
Yeah,
shit, this was not the right turn.
yeah. And I think that's part of the journey,
Yeah.
That's definitely been part of the journey for me. And the current place that I'm in, uh, which is an interesting one, you know, we live in a really interesting time with social media and everybody's telling you this is the way and you got to do this, and optimize yourself and be better. And, you know, one of the most powerful insights I've taken as a truth of my experiences that I'm a human being, and it's not going to be perfect all the time. Because I was still living in that even when I started to pick myself up and dust myself off. I mean, there were, a couple years ago, now it was maybe 3 years ago now, I'd been on this path for a while, meditating, men's groups, 12 step, plant medicine, doing my pod, best shape of my life. Like I was on the top of this mountain, and after my divorce happened January of 22. Then I was on a slow descent into a cave and had to do a lot of healing, grieving, resting, reconfiguring, recalibrating, which led me to yet another moment where I was back on my knees at another rock bottom where I had to pick up the phone and ask for help. And I got myself to a treatment center at the end of last year because I was stuck in some really difficult patterns that had just totally taken hold of me with kratom and cannabis as well. Cannabis, I haven't smoked weed in like 9 months, but it wasn't ever really the problem. Kratom was really the problem. And and on the outside, everybody would have thought Eb was doing great, but on the inside, I had replaced the substance with my interest in life. And but because I found myself in this really dark hole where I needed to start again. And I would look back at that guy who was on top of the mountain right before that divorce. And I was like, what happened? Like, what happened, dude?
Mm.
Well, what I realized was that guy who I love and fuck man, self-love, self-acceptance, big part of this trip too, which we can talk about if you're interested in. But that guy who felt like he was totally on top of the world, ready for God to descend or for himself to dissolve into light, was really like getting somewhere. Like that was the idea in that guy's head. He was living under the illusion that something else was going to happen. Like there was going to be a trophy, or he was going to dissolve into light, or he was going to enter the phase of, you know, sitting on the throne in white robes with followers at his feet. It was like there was something, I don't know what it was, but he was ready for this next thing to happen that I've come to realize there is and there never has been a destination. There are these little checkpoints along the way where we achieve something, promotion, graduate, get the trophy, whatever the thing might be that we spend these little pockets of time working towards. But then the movie just keeps going, life keeps happening. And that was one of my struggles back then. It's like I was ready for the fucking, the walk in the clouds. I was ready for the big moment to happen. Jesus coming out of the water after being baptized to be recognized by God as his beloved son. Like I was ready for the big moment. And what I realized is, that's an illusion that we hold over ourselves. And that the truth of the process, the truth of the path that we're walking, at least that I'm walking here, the only destination, the only place that I'm getting to is a clearer and clearer perception of myself and reality, with fewer and fewer veils of illusion clouding my perception.
Mm.
So it's just a peeling back of where we are right here, right now. I'm not actually going anywhere, you know. There's nowhere to get to, which is how I spent most of my life in
Well,
that.
how most people spend their lives, right? It's like I'm going to get
Yeah,
to retirement, I'm going to get to this thing, I'm going to get to this point, and it is like the staircases and landings. That's how it always been like in my mind. Like you climb these different staircases, you get to landing, you get to look back, you have to look forward at the next staircase, and that's another staircase, and you get to another landing. And you're absolutely right. There are these checkpoints, and we put so much emphasis and energy and time into getting to these checkpoints. And it seems like that's the way to maneuver through life. But
right.
it's also how do you stay present in where you're currently are and be grateful and grounded and have gratitude. But then also, I mean, that's something I personally struggle with is how do you stay grateful but yet ambitious? How do you
Yeah,
stay grounded but then elevated? How do you stay in these two worlds and how do you
yeah,
navigate between these two worlds? And it's something I personally struggle with all the time. Just going back to that journal, it's like, am I writing the right things down to be grateful for? Right? Like, what a fucking crazy idea that is. It's like, I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah, if you're like, but then there's all these worldly things that you look to attain, right? Whether it be an NFL career or a certain amount in your bank account. And there is validity to having that validation in the 3D world too.
yeah. 100%. It's a great illustration of the conundrum because I think, talking about the topic of the month for your men's group,
Mm-hmm.
enough.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about it. And what came into my mind is exactly what you just talked about, which is how can we practice being really grateful for what is and plant it in our feet in the moment, being really grateful and feeling like everything we have right here, right now is enough and wanting more.
Mm.
And I think that is, Bob Proctor has a great thing where essentially what he gets to is that the soul is here, your soul is here to expand and grow. And wanting more is the mind's, the heart's manifestation of the soul's desire to grow, to expand
Mm.
itself. And, we always because the problem with living in the it's never enough paradigm, if you're just living in that and you're just constantly looking at everything you have as not enough, you become the billionaire in the room of the 100 billionaires going, well, I have one yacht. Those guys have 10 yachts. I'm
Right.
a piece of shit.
Right.
I need 10 yachts.
Right. But at that same time, you can be it's the old, right, the man with no shoes, right, looks at the man with no feet, right? It's that dynamic,
Right.
right? But you could still be that billionaire without the bank account, right? You could still be the ungrateful person with food on their table, with healthy children, with whatever it is, right? So it's
100%.
and that scale just gets elevated. So you're exactly right. At what point does it become egregious and sinful to be so gluttonous and so enamored with money or anything in this 3D world? But then at the same time, you're also being that by just being ungrateful for the simple shit you have in your life now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think what you just said there is exactly the line, right? It becomes, what is your relationship to it?
Mm.
Is it coming from a place of lack? Is everything you're doing coming from a place of lack? Or is everything you're doing coming from a place of gratitude and a desire to expand?
That's a great question. That's a really great question. That's a great frame to put it on because part of it is lack, right? Because that lack or that urge to do more, that urge for the soul to expand is coming from a place of lack because you are currently in a state of not enough, right? The soul is not experiencing its fullest potential,
Right.
right? So there is a sense of lack, but then there is also the sense of can it be also instead of it coming to you, can it be coming out of you, right? Can life be coming out of you and it unfolding, as you were saying before, like the veil of reality unfolding and peeling back the layers of yourself? Can it be moving forward versus it coming to you?
Yeah. Yeah. I like it. I mean, man, it comes down to, well, going back to the lack. I think that there's 100% a vibration of lack, right? Like it's never enough or nothing that I have. Like, I live in a beautiful home, have a beautiful partner, have unbelievable, like, gonna have a great dinner tonight, have great relationships. Like, I don't feel like there's anything lacking in my life, you know?
Mm-hmm.
In another dimension where Eb's not doing so well, another version of Eb that's living in lack is going, man, why don't I have the Ferrari? Why don't I have the, you know, why don't I have the 10,000 square foot Joe Rogan gym,
Right.
attached to my house? Why don't, whatever the things are, you know? Um, and, and what that living in that state of mind brings is essentially more lack because we live in this interrelational experience with the universe, God.
Mm.
And if you're walking around going, why don't I have this? That guy has that. What the fuck, man? Why don't I have that? That's all you're going to see and that's all you're going to get in your life. But if you're walking around going, man, this is fucking unbelievable. And yeah, I want more. I'm ready to work. I'm ready to work harder. I'm ready to give more of myself to the world so that I can receive more. Like you're saying, that life is coming out of you. That life is coming out of you so that you can receive more of that life within
Mm.
you. And I don't, and all of us, it's not a perfect, I mean, I'm not perfect. It's not going to be a perfect journey. It's like anything. You're going to face doubt. You're going to face uncertainty just about every day. You're going to question yourself. You're going to be doing your gratitude journal going, this really positive thing going, am I writing the fucking right shit here? What's going on?
Right. Am I
Does
not
this need to be
manifesting correctly?
better? Does this need to be better? Like, what am
And
I doing wrong here?
and for someone who like and I it's funny, we laugh about it, but it's the same time it's no different than the person's like, well, I don't know how to meditate. I can't meditate correctly, right? It's like it's such a ridiculous statement because there is no right or wrong way to like meditating or prayer, right? It's just or journaling or any of this stuff. There is no right or wrong way to do it. It's just your way and your approach to it and just doing it, right? So much of it's really just in the doing of it. But we get caught up in the am
1000%.
I journaling? Did I carve out? Did I do my morning routine correctly? And for me, I went through my phase of where I'd wake up and I still do wake up early, just the conditions of my life. But if I missed my CrossFit class, I
Mm,
would beat the fuck. I would speak to myself like the worst person in the world. Like, and I was
uh-huh.
in great shape. It was probably the best, but I was so, to your earlier point, like I was so angry. I was so sad. It was such a, like, just not a health, like physically, I looked great. but I was so unhealthy, right? I would speak to myself so poorly. Now, if I had snoozed 6 times and I missed the 5 a.m. class, I'm like, fuck, I guess I need some sleep. Like, all good, you know?
Yeah.
And it's definitely a healthier, harmonious way of living. But there is also this mentality of like, especially in the social media space, with the grunt work, with the you gotta grind, get up,
Yeah.
do like,
Yeah.
and there is validity to that as well, where it is about overcoming that discomfort and not hitting snooze. And also, there has to give you have to give yourself that grace and that space to say, I'm fucking tired. And that's okay too.
Yeah. Totally agree, dude. I totally agree. I've been doing this workshop for God, I guess like the last, what is it, July, fuck, 7 months. And one of the leaders of the workshop, he posed this aphorism, something to chew on mentally, which I thought speaks to this so well, exactly what you said, which to me is the ultimate, once you've, because we live in a society and a culture that has programmed us into having our frame of reference be solely based on the if then equation.
Mm,
If I get up at 5 a.m. and I do the workout and I get the ice tub and I do the meditation and I get to work at whatever time and I grind my ass off, then I'm going to be happy and feel fulfilled,
mm,
which will work for a while.
hmm.
My problem with that, as a guy who's been a fucking high performer and a fucking grinder my whole life, is at some point that if then equation starts to fall apart where I'm totally burned out and going, fuck my life. I need to do something new,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So, this aphorism that was posed, which I think speaks to this so well, because inevitably, my belief is every single human being is going to be faced with the the challenge of the things that I've been doing are not working for me anymore.
Dude, I literally said that to a guy I work with yesterday. I literally said to him, because I wake up, I go CrossFit 3 days a week and jujitsu 3 days a week, and then I do a ruck once a week at 5 in the morning.
You're a
We
fucking beast,
we
bro.
start at 5 in the morning, right?
Uh-huh.
And I went to jujitsu, and that morning I'm at work, and I looked and I was like, you know what's scary? And he's like, what is it? I said, all the shit I do to stay calm and level head isn't working anymore.
Right. Yeah.
None of this shit's working anymore. And now it's like, how do I go to the laboratory and reinvent all of this shit, right? Like I still love
Yeah.
doing jiu-jitsu and I will continue to do it. But
Yeah.
it's like what it did for me, like it's like any addiction or any like
Yeah.
alcoholism or cannabis usage. It's like all of a sudden the scale has grown, and now what used to get me drunk or high off of one hit, now I need 10 beers. Now I need a full joint, right? Like it's no the small adjustment that it gave me is no longer enough. So now
Yeah.
it's like, what is that saying? Is that saying you need to do something else? Or does that mean you need to go deeper? Or is that exactly what you were saying earlier before? The
Right.
soul's looking to expand outside of this construct.
Yes, dude. Yes. I mean, I've been confronted with this many times, dude.
Yeah, and you see it in seasons. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
inevitable.
And so what this aphorism was that was posed was learn to trust your instincts
Mm.
and learn to distrust your habits.
That's
So
a tough one.
basically,
Yeah, that's a
yeah,
tough one. That's a tough
yeah.
one.
So basically, it becomes what we're talking about here, dude. Discipline is great. I'm a big believer in discipline. I'm a big believer in consistency. Uh, Taking care of my body, working out, lifting weights, doing yoga. Fuck, I would love to find a great jujitsu place near me because I love it, but I don't have anything near where I live at the moment. It's all great. And doing it a certain way, doing it that regimented way where I'm getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get to the 6 a.m. lift or whatever it might be, or and I find myself in that place where I'm fucking exhausted, but I'm like, hey, dude, we got to get up at 5 a.m. tomorrow. I don't give a fuck how tired you are, how sore you are. We're going to do it because David Goggins says, don't be a bitch. And
Right.
you got to you find more when you go and do the hard thing. And it's like, dude, I don't know. That's not really working for me anymore, man. Like
Right.
I'm not becoming the guy that I want to. This is actually taking me the other way. Like I'm becoming the resentful, angry guy who doesn't have energy for anything now.
Right.
Who's what I started doing all of this stuff to begin with to get myself out of that. So I got to start doing exactly what you said. Oh man, I guess I need to sleep in today. I guess I need to start learning how to rest. I need to bring some more balance into my life
Yeah.
because that's instinctually something inside of me is going, okay, this is great. We've come really far, but dude, we need a break. We need a rest. All right. So what my life over the last year has really become learning how to live in more balance. I work my ass off. I fucking bust my ass. I still train hard as fuck. But I learned to take a day off.
Mm.
I learned rather than being, ultra disciplined with food 7 days a week, which inevitably leads to, the day 8, 9 binge of ice cream and pizza. And like, I'm just like
Dude,
totally lost.
last 2 mornings too, but I think what's behind that reluctancy to give up the control of the scenario, though we don't even have the control anyway. It's a perception that we have. The idea of us letting go of this false sense of control is that all of a sudden, I could speak very about, especially eating, I will go completely off the fucking rails. Like if you introduce a bagel into my life, like pizza, I could stay away from. I'm good on pizza. If you like this morning, I had a fucking bagel and cream cheese at 7 o'clock in the morning. I was getting my kids' stuff ready for camp. I was like, I don't give a fuck about anything. I want this bagel and I'm going to eat it and I'm putting jelly on it and I'm having it with a really hot cup of coffee and I'm loving it.
I love that,
And
dude.
I enjoyed it. I totally enjoyed the fucking bagel. The problem is I'll wake up again tomorrow and go, I probably have another bagel, right? So
Uh-huh.
it is like that where's that fine line of being like, all right, enough is enough now. You had your bagel. Because you can get like I got trapped in a season of like I put my son to bed most nights and I'll fall asleep in his room. I'll climb out of his bed. It's 9 o'clock, after a full day of work or whatever. And then I'm like, I gotta crush some cookies right now. And I'll go in the kitchen, I'll crush a sleeve of Chips Ahoy or like whatever cookies and some milk, and then I'll shower and go to bed. And that was like a real solid like season. And I was like, this is not serving me. But it
Uh-huh.
but at the same time, it kind of was because I needed to dip into the cookie jar to get myself back out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%, dude. I think that if we can allow that, we have to be able to allow ourselves to be in more balance because that in my experience is more sustainable. We
Mm-hmm.
can stay at a high level of output for longer if we're more in balance day to day.
Mm-hmm.
If you're learning how to rest, you're learning how to fucking just, eat the bagel, whatever. I get it, dude. And not be so rigid in it, having some flexibility because, you know, and then the other part of it, though, probably the most important part of it is the self-talk afterwards.
Oh, I was just gonna say.
It's
Yeah,
because
dude.
having the thing is not necessarily the big deal. It's, the next day or 4 hours later when you're beating the shit out of yourself for having done it.
And that's no different than sleeping through the alarm for CrossFit. It's just now taking an expression in a fucking bagel. And it was funny because as I was making the bagel, I was like, why are you making this fucking bagel? You do not need to eat this bagel right now. And then the other part of me was like, dude, your life is not going to be ruined over a fucking bagel. Like whatever body composition your goal is and whatever body composition you have is not going to fall apart over this bagel. He's burned, I don't know how many thousands of calories at
Yeah.
jujitsu. You could afford the fucking bagel. But when you live in a world where you see the social media and you come across the guy on the Instagram and he's completely fucking chiseled as shit, and you're like, man, I want to look like that dude, right? And why wouldn't you, right? We're men, right?
Of
We're
course.
a part of our DNA is to protect and to be fucking, the warrior, the fucking
Yeah.
soldier, right? There's something about that that's in us, and I've heard you talk about on other podcasts, like part of our purpose and what I think we've lost as men. I don't believe men were ever put on this earth with a true purpose. Maybe, to serve and to protect and all that, but not a true purpose, because that purpose can dissolve. Women, and I've spoken about this before, it's not being sexist, it's not being anything. Women are put on the earth with a purpose to recreate life. No bigger purpose
Yeah.
on the planet. Everything we do is just less than that, always and always will be. And we don't have a purpose. So now we try to find purpose in a six pack or in really good fucking lats or a black belt or whatever
Yeah.
it is, or an NFL career.
Money.
We try to find purpose in that. And it's so hard as men, especially, to allow that to, again, going back to that point, to be grateful but aspirational, to say, I'm gonna eat the fucking bagel and I still want the abs.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe if it helps, if it helps on the journey, that day you have the bagel, you hit a little heavier on the legs,
Right.
you hit the legs a little harder. You go, you go, you roll another round in jujitsu when you feel like resting,
Right.
So it's like, I don't know, man, balance is such an important thing for me. Um, and listening, this idea, like learning to trust my instincts, learning to trust my intuition. Like, what do I actually need today? I'm not a fucking robot. Let me actually pay attention to what's going on in here
Mm.
and tune into that and live from that place rather than living from the habitual program that I did yesterday. Yeah, maybe it worked yesterday, you know.
Hmm.
But today you wake up and you're like, man, I don't have it in me to hit the weights really hard or hit that yoga class or go to jujitsu, but I can take a long walk.
Yeah.
I can hit 100 push-ups and take a long walk. Okay, great. Great. All right. Let's do that today and do some breathing, take care of myself, eat a little lighter maybe. Today's not maybe a day I get to eat the cookies.
Right. Welcome to Agora Social Club, the Westchester's hub for guys to gather, connect, and unwind. In the last 6 years, I've been facilitating a men's group called the Council of Dudes. And within that 6 years, I've realized that guys need a place where they can get together, connect, and build community. A place that's not the gym, that's not jujitsu, that's not the bar, but a place where guys can come with no ego and grow and develop together. So here we have our chess table. We're going to be having monthly chess lessons and our Take a Book, Leave a Book library. Some of these I've read, some of these I haven't. Quantum physics to personal development to fiction. We also have our record player area. In the last few years, I've become very obsessed with jazz music. And if you don't know how to play vinyl, no big deal. It hooks up to your phone via Bluetooth. We have artwork from California to local artists. We have these small little work tables, so if you want to hang on the couch and get some work done, you can just come pop them open. And we also have our little workspace here with quotes from Muhammad Ali, Albert Einstein, Theodore Roosevelt. We also have our coffee bar, small fridge, and more quotes and artwork over the wall. Head on over to agorasocialclub.com, sign up for our free 7-day trial, and with that, you will get a key fob. Scan your key fob, and you have access to this space from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week. So if you're a guy in the Westchester area and you're looking to gather, connect, and unwind with like-minded men, head on over to agorasocialclub.com. How do you tune into that internal navigation system? What are obviously the yoga helps, and I'm sure there's other modalities. For me, sensory deprivation was the catalyst for sure. It was meditation, then floating. What do you do to kind of fine tune that inner voice and really hear it clearly?
Really just practice, man. Because it happens in all those places and it can be more pronounced.
Yep, it's a vacuum, so of course, yeah.
when you're on a walk in nature with no headphones in, or you're
Yeah.
in meditation, or you're in the yoga class, you're on the fucking mat, whatever it might be. But then, you could just be driving down the freeway, dude, and some fucking insight comes in. And
Yeah.
you're like, whoa, where'd that come? It could be call this guy. It could be, hey, start that thing. It could be make this list. It could be a big thing. I got to leave my job, whatever it might be. Learning how, and this goes back to, where I was and where I came from with the chaotic thinking, those thoughts might come in and I might go, oh my God, I got to fucking do it all right now. I
Uh,
got to build the castle right now. But now, I just pay attention and I listen to it and I go, okay, what's a tiny step I can take in that direction right now to affirm with whatever that thing is, my higher being, my soul, God, whatever you interpret it as. I mean, I know people who have names for the fucking voices that come in, for the whispers that come in. They're talking to, fucking Archangel Michael and this spirit. And I'm like, I don't really have that. I have like a council of voices in my head, you know? And and I think all of whatever it is, whatever form it takes, it doesn't really matter, but you get that feeling in your body where you feel fucking excited about it. You feel charged up. There's something about it. You're like, yeah, okay. It gets something in you moves.
mm.
And you go, okay, let me just take one step in that direction. Let me make a note to myself. When you got the fucking phone, I send texts to myself all the time. It was like beginning of January, and I come out of treatment. I'm newly sober, and I'm just like, God, give me a sign, bro. Like, give me something here. Because I feel totally like, what am I doing? you know, like a
Yes.
year, 2, 3 years ago, man, it was like I felt like I was swimming in an ocean of possibility. And now I feel like I'm just living alone. I'm all alone on my 5 acres of land. And I'm just like waiting for a sign to do something. And, and I was in meditation and just this thought came in like, you're going to start a men's group. Start this men's group, invite these guys. I was like, okay. Next day, I came out of meditation, sent myself a text. Okay, men's group, invite these guys. Done. Did it. Next day, sent the email, started the men's group. It's been, like you said, Wednesday nights for us, man. It's like Thanksgiving every time, And I really, and then through that, this energy has built back up where I've got my podcast going again. I'm teaching more. I'm getting these live, well, I call them live Eben Flows. It's breathwork, yoga, meditation, which I would love to offer for free for you guys for the men's group if anybody's
Awesome.
interested. Saturday morning, 8 a.m. Pacific time, 1 hour. We do breathwork, yoga, guided meditation. But it's like that. It can be something small. It might not even make sense, but just start to tune into it and practice it. Practice paying attention to those whispers, those insights, little by little. Just make notes for yourself and see what happens. I don't know what, I think everybody's process is different. The signs come in many forms. Sometimes it's like you get an insight and then the next three people you talk to, they mention something that is linked to that idea,
Yeah,
right?
I call those micro miracles.
Yeah, brother, totally.
You
Micro
know?
miracle, exactly. You go, oh shit,
Yeah. Yeah.
I got to do that. Like for me, interestingly, I was feeling like talking about this this if then equation conundrum. I'm feeling like, man, I need to lose weight. Like I feel good about I'm strong, but I feel best when I'm like under 260. And when I went into the hole, I went from like 250, 245, 250 back up to like 285 real quick. I was eating a lot of bread. I was eating fucking potatoes every day, every meal, and it was like this isn't working for me.
Mhm.
This isn't, my back hurts. I mean, I had fucking a catastrophic back injury during my football career. I had back surgery, shoulder surgery. Everything fucking hurts, dude. I'm
Mhm.
getting older. I'm creeping up towards 40. I've got a few years. I'm 37, turned 38 this year. But I'm like, man, going into my 40s, I want to be in the best shape of my life.
I said the same thing. I'm 41, and I
You
said
know?
that. And it depends on what you define as best shape of your life too, right?
Totally.
You know?
Totally. For me, it's really, I there's a parameter, there's a gauge of pain in my body that's more present the heavier I am.
Hmm. Yeah, of course.
So I'm like, I want to probably right now I'm like 270, 265, 270. So since the beginning of this year, I've done a handful of liver cleanses, which have been really cool and powerful. And it's like, whoa, that was interesting. Um, I've tried different diets. Mark Bell, if you follow him, he was big on this sugar diet thing, like just eat all fruit and candy. I mean, I'm not eating fucking candy, but I was doing like a few days of like just eating fruit and honey throughout the day. And then I'd have like lean protein and some vegetables for dinner. But I'm like, dude, it still wasn't really like getting me where I wanted to go. So anyway, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go back to intermittent fasting. Like for me, if I can, I need to limit how much food I'm taking in.
Yeah. I
That's
hear you.
important for me,
Yeah, I hear you. Nine
you
o'clock
know?
cookie sleeves. I get it.
So I'm like, okay, if I can get back to intermittent fasting until like 12, 1, 2 o'clock, I know I'm in a good place. And then I'll eat my lean protein, good fats, veggies. I'll keep it really simple. And I've started to see these results and I'm starting to like feel like, okay, we got this fucking momentum going, right? But then one day talking about the micro miracles, I had this thought, like I need to do more. I mean, I'm getting my lift in, but then like I'm kind of like working at the computer all day. I'm not super active after my hour and 15-minute lift. So I'm like, I need something else. And I had in meditation, it was like, why don't you get some running shoes? I was like, fuck, I hate running.
It's always running.
You
It's
know, I
always
was
running.
like,
Yeah, yeah.
God, dude, I'm fucking, I've got all these stories. I'm too big to fucking run. But I was like, okay, yeah, felt kind of fired up about it. I was like, all right, get some running shoes. Cool, cool, okay. Then the next day, I'm in my men's group and a dude starts talking. He's like, man, I just got my running shoes on and went and ran sprints. And I'm like, fuck, dude. There it is. Okay, and I had like gone to the New Balance website, looked around, was like, I'm not gonna get them. But then after that call, I was like, okay, I'm buying the fucking running shoes. And there was somebody I talked to was like, Eb, I got these new running shoes and they feel fucking great. And I was like, all right, I'm getting the fucking running shoes. And I
Yes.
got them. And you know, I haven't been running a ton, but I've been getting out and just like jogging, walking, jogging, walking. And anyway, it's uplifted me. I'm not going to say like, the miracle has occurred and I'm down to 250 already, but it's lifted my spirit because I'm just following that guide,
Yes.
you know?
Yes. Yes.
And when we can practice that, when we live in that energy of trusting ourselves and following this thing that comes through us, whatever it is, our intuition, our connection to spirit, if you keep following that, man, like things start to open up, like the light comes in.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. Yeah, for me, I've whittled it down to five mantras. The first one's "Don't lose your dinosaur," which I think is the beginning of it. Right, we start as children, and the goal is to go back to children, to go back to that blind faith and curiosity of the world. And having two small children, my daughter's 10, my son's 6. I see. I see the societal norms and expectations and the soul getting sucked out of my daughter. And I see the just joyful experience that my son is having being a 6-year-old boy chasing the waves at the beach. And I'm like, oh, she's losing it and he still has it. So I think that's number one for me. The second is that,
Mm,
obviously that follow the golden thread, that feeling that pulls you to become the enlightened best version of you, that it's always and know that it's always going to change. Those goalposts, right, are always going to be moving, right? That finish line is never going to be crossed. There's going to be no confetti. There's no medal. It's not like you've arrived. Congratulations.
yeah.
You're done. It
Yeah.
doesn't exist. Um, and following that, right? And then it's, if you build it, they will come, right? It's, if you put in the work, you put in the effort, you put in the energy, there will be a reciprocal expectation. There'll be something reciprocal on the other side of that. And then it's about letting go too. It's about just kind of allowing all that to be truthful and actionable and taking steps in there, but also letting go and allowing it to unfold in a natural order of things, and not based off of your timeline, but based off of God's timeline.
Mm. So the five are: don't lose your dinosaur,
Follow the golden thread.
follow the golden thread.
If you build it, they will come.
If you build it, they will come.
Did I miss one in there?
Let go.
Let go. Did I
What
miss
was the
one?
fifth?
Did I
What was
miss
the
one in there?
fifth?
I said four. Maybe there's only four. Maybe I've overcomplicated it. No, what was the fifth
Those
one?
are
Hold on.
great.
It was uh that's what I skipped one. After if after don't lose your dinosaur, magic is real.
It's good, man.
Magic is real,
Yeah.
because and that's one of the bigger ones, because it's those micro miracles. It's those coincidences, the serendipities, right? It's that magic of life that now allow, and like leaning into that a little bit, right? Like
Mm,
realizing and opening up your portals, right? Your energetic
mm,
fluency to say, I have this feeling of I want to start running. Where'd that come from? Right? And leaning into that, right? And then all of a sudden those serendipities happen. And then also realizing like that magic is not only in those micro miracles, but that magic is always around us. It's
mm.
always present with us. And it could be simple things like the observation of nature or colors or birds or kids or whatever it is, but it's always happening. It's always buzzing around us. And when you could like pluck it out of the ether and like internalize it, and if you're blessed enough for it to tap you on the shoulder and you actually answer that call, it opens up a totally different reality. And that's where like those, I jokingly, it was like I was listening to this thing on like quantum shifting, right? And like quantum leaps. And I was like, "All right, I'm going to go to bed and I'm going to wake up in a totally different reality. Like I'm going to do it. All right. I went to bed. I woke up. It was the same fucking reality. But then I asked myself, is it? Is it
Uh-huh.
actually the same reality? Is there a potential opportunity here that I did shift into an alternate reality? And although it may not look and feel different based off of the prism I'm looking at the world through, there's an opportunity to also look at and say, maybe that alternate reality just hasn't played itself out yet. Maybe
Mm,
that quantum leap or that quantum shift that I was trying to manifest actually took place. I just don't realize it because I'm still looking at it through the prism of a human being and not seeing the long enough game.
yeah. Yeah, that's a powerful thing, dude. Quantum leaps are real, man. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. I love that. You're totally one. I mean, I love those five mantras, dude. They're really powerful and they're real and they're true. And I think they're great. They're incredible ideals, pillars of life.
Yeah. You use the word God a lot. When did you shift to that vocabulary? For me, it's been a bit more recent. I always kind of did the force, the source, universe kind of dancing around you. 'Cause
Yeah,
I was raised Catholic. I was raised Catholic, and you go to Catholic
sure.
church, and it's like, and I always had this relationship with God that was, guy with a beard in the sky that looked at me and had a tally of every time I fucking did something wrong and was
Right.
judging me. And then once I had this realization with the kids, and I was like, if I can, I'm gonna try not to botch this one. If I could see myself the way my children see me, and I could love myself with the unconditional capacity of love that I have for my children, I then get a glimpse into my relationship with God. And once
Yeah.
I shifted that lens and my relationship with God wasn't you're doing all wrong shit, but it was really truly a father son relationship of unconditional love, acceptance, not in a sense that God is love, right? It's not that God has a capacity of love. God is love. God is acceptance. God is forgiveness. Once I shifted that relationship with the word God and the entity of God, I was like, oh, I like this word so much better than just saying universe or force in saying, because those are not encompassing of what God is. God is the creator of those things in my world.
No doubt about it. It was very organic. I don't. It's a good question. Something I'm gonna have. I don't know if it'll come to me now, but like I said, from the time I was a little kid, I just understood. I knew that there was a divine intelligence in me and in my life and in everything I saw and knew. And again, I didn't always know what that felt like,
Mm.
but I knew it was there, which has been, more important than I can put words to in having faith and infusing me with the courage to pick up the phone and ask for help and recognize that I'm not alone in my darkest moments.
Mm.
Um, I think that just talking a lot about this stuff, talking a lot about it and living it and experiencing it and feeling it in my life, in myself. The other words just, the universe, source, they don't have the power, they don't
Yeah.
have the energy that
Yeah.
God does. And I think perhaps it's been divinely inspired because we live in a world where God is such a taboo concept. It's and seems to become more so. Like people are afraid of God, or or they think of God as like a bad thing or something that we need to move away from. And I recognize God as all that there is.
Mm.
And I think that that shift just it overtook me more than anything. It wasn't necessary. It was just recognizing what is in my life and what my experience has been that I came to just using the word God. I'll say, because I think when we're doing podcasts, Vinny, you know this. I mean, certain topics that we venture into, it requires a certain amount of anesthesia
Mm.
to grease the gears for people to be able to receive it and not be triggered by it.
Yeah.
And so I'll use the terms universe, God, spirit, whatever, however, and it occurs to you, because that's really all that matters. It doesn't really, these are all just words and labels that we put on shit. I mean,
Hmm.
God's an interesting word. Like, where did that come from? you know, um, but for me, it's the best way to describe what I experience in my life,
Yeah.
you know.
God is an all-encompassing word, right? Where
Yeah,
I agree with you when I use the word, and I understand exactly what you're saying. Like I feel as though using the word God can be polarizing,
right.
versus saying universe or source. But at the same time, I do think that leaning into the polarization and not allowing the polarization to pull you away from the word. Because if I have to use the word God and you start getting all like, oh God, he's using the word God, that's not comfortable. That says more about you and your discomfort with whatever relationship you have with that thing, right? That you have to use this other word. I'm cool with it. I really, quite frankly, don't care what you call it. I'm in agreement with you, but my usage of the word shouldn't create discomfort in others. I understand that it does, or it potentially can, but it shouldn't. It's no different than me using the word universe in my world, right? But I do understand that. But I also think there is something to be said about leaning into that word. And I'm still getting more comfortable with using the word God just on podcast or in conversation because there is this societal kind of taboo thing about it where it's like you become this Jesus thumper or this like God, like, and not that there's anything wrong with that, right? Like, oh yeah, I support a guy that was just all about like love and happiness and like supporting people. What a horrible role model, right? But there is something about that becomes like taboo and kind of like uncomfortable when you start throwing around the titles of these things.
Yeah. And I think to add to why I use the word God, God to me denotes the ultimate creative intelligence of all things. When I say the universe, I mean, there's an element of that, but it doesn't, I think that as it is all part of God, it's like God is the word,
Yeah, it's like you're right. It's like universe or source. Universe is still putting humanistic limited boundaries
Right.
on its potential, right? It's like putting it in a bubble of
Yeah.
universe, right? Where when you go to God, you break through the bubble and it's everything outside of that. Like it's like trying to
Yeah.
like think of like infinity, right? It's like your brain just starts to like glitch out. You're like, I can't go any further, right?
Yeah.
It's so God encompasses in my more recent experience, God encompasses that glitching and just also, I think it also allows me to relinquish the idea that I can conceptualize the infinite, right? It allows me to say, like, I can't conceptualize this thing. So I have to put it under this word that's all inclusive, although it's not even a drop of what I can conceive.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Totally agree, dude. Um, yeah. I mean, the universe, the idea of the universe, I think it leaves room for coincidence,
Mm,
because you're trying to scientifically describe something that, like you said, is ineffable. It's indescribable. And what my life has been, man, there's no coincidences, dude. It's all there's energy, there's this thing working in between in between the spaces, in between the molecules. There's all of it is and within those points of reference as well. Like it's in all things that I see all the time, and it can manifest and it can express itself in like we talked about those micro miracles. It can express itself in those quantum leaps, which are a fucking real thing. I mean, I love your thought experiment of waking up in a new reality and how would I know anyway? And also a guy named Neville Goddard,
sure.
who was a, quantum physicist, basically talking about quantum leaps from a practical human standpoint happens when you've been working you've been working really hard towards a certain goal or developing yourself in a really disciplined way for a really long time, and you feel like you're on this plateau, and then one day the quantum leap happens and you wake up and you're literally a new person. You're the person that you've been striving to be. And yet there will be more iterations of that, of self, that will come into being as you continue on the path. But that quantum leap is this, it's this, wormhole from one reality into another, or you could call it jumping a timeline, if that makes sense to you. Like, you literally go from one timeline, you were living on a certain timeline, you make certain decisions, and you jump to another timeline. And it is a whole new reality. I mean, I've seen it in my own life.
What's an example of that in your own life?
I mean, one would be making it to the NFL.
Yeah, but isn't that so? To your point of you're putting in the work, you're putting the effort, and in both scenarios, it was a slow, seemingly, progression of hard work, effort, timing, all of these things, right? And you didn't wake up one day. Well, I guess you kind of did. Well, wake up one day and all of a sudden you're in the NFL, right? That's got to be. I think it's recognition in that surreal moment, right? Like it's a like you. I could say that having a child was a form of a quantum leap because in 1 hour I didn't have a
sure.
human being, right? And then the next hour I'm a completely different human being. I'm a dad. I'm a
Yeah.
completely different person. My role, everything about me is radically different now, right? So it
Yeah.
can be this 9 months or this entire lifetime of building towards this thing. And then all of a sudden, that work is now presented in this new tangible reality, but it's not, at least from my limited experience with I don't believe it's just waking up and all of a sudden I've got the Ferrari or I've got the bank account, right?
Yeah.
It's an arrival
Yeah.
of an internal state that gets, I believe, manifested over a
Yes.
period of time.
Externally.
Exactly.
Yeah. 100%. It's just another way to describe it.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that,
Did you feel like maybe you didn't have the words right to explain that you experienced a quantum leap, but did you feel like holy shit, life? I mean, how could you not? You're just in the fucking NFL now. It's got to be such a surreal experience. That moment, you're like, holy shit,
yeah,
I've arrived to some
maybe the
degree.
quantum leap took place earlier, though.
Right? Right? It could
To
have
your
been.
point,
It could have been. How many years before? And
Yeah,
and all of a sudden, it
exactly.
opened up this whole pathway of you going into the NFL.
Exactly. Um, so maybe that's not the best example of that, because I think you're right. It is that internal assumption. So you assume this role in your being. I was
Mm.
talking about this earlier. You assume this persona, for lack of a better word. I am this person. I am an NFL player. And that took me from being, the chubby, depressed 12-year-old to being a fucking NFL warrior at 13, when I stepped on the football field and decided I was going to play in the NFL, you know?
So maybe that was the quantum leap.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I think and then it took 10 years for the external reality
Right, to
to
match that, of course.
realize itself. But then I think it can also happen in those really miraculous ways too. I have a more personal one that I don't know if I can articulate it that well on the pod, that I have the words to, but it was essentially like I was living in LA, feeling totally trapped and needing more space, needing to get somewhere new, seeing myself on land in the sunshine, my feet in the grass, and a year later, the property comes in Texas, and I move out to the country.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sitting here, I'm waking up in the morning with my coffee, going, how the fuck did this happen,
Yeah,
dude?
yeah. Well, that's I mean, no different than in building Agora and the social club here. It's like
Right.
this was an idea, we opened up April of last year. This is an idea 4 years ago. I'm speaking to someone in a car and like, well, what do you want to do with your life? I was like, I just want to open a space where guys can go and just do their fucking thing and be guys and with strip themselves of ego and do men's groups and events and all these. And is that a quantum leap? Did I open up a new portal of existence
Yes.
and reality that now puts me in a place? Because now I'm on the phone with my business partners and we're talking to investors and we're talking about this and we're talking about growth and all these other amazing things. And I get off the phone and go, what the fuck is going on right now? None of this
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
I'll get into bed and I'll look at my wife and go, for the first time in I don't know how long, I don't feel crazy. I don't feel
Uh-huh.
delusional. I feel like this is reality, right? It's not just this elusive idea that's floating around my head that's like, oh, that's cute. Vin has an idea. It's like, oh no, this is fucking real. Right. And
Yeah.
now it's about stepping into it. So where does that happen? When does that happen? And I think that obviously we can go back and forth. At this moment, do you wake up at an actual timeline? But I think the important is the embodiment piece of that and recognizing that you as an individual have changed and it's stepping into life as this new version of yourself, although you may not have arrived with the car and the bank account and all of the 3D tangible validation pieces. Your
Yeah.
internal self is very different, and being
Yeah.
around things that no longer serve you are like, to me, when I'm in a room of people that are just like not this
On the
converse,
on the wave.
yeah, you're just like, what the fuck? Like your
Yeah.
energy is so tweaked out.
You're just like, oh, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
I'm not, this isn't my room, which is fine. And that's powerful. It's powerful to get to yourself to a place where you recognize that,
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
you know. I think you're 100% right. The timeline shift, the quantum leap happens when you make the decision inside yourself and you hold that vision of where you're going in your heart. And then everything you do, every step you take is from that place.
Do you think you need to burn the boats as people often talk about, like that David Goggins, like you got to have no plan B, it's just about plan A, fuck everything else? Or do you think that, like, when you stepped on that football field and you as a child said, I'm going to be an NFL player, and I don't know when you said that in your mind, obviously the external world, you're going to have a million kids say every day, kids say they're going to be a fucking NFL player every single day. So what made it different for you versus the kid that steps on the field and never becomes an NFL player? Is it just the conviction? Is it just, did you have no plan B? What was it?
There was no plan B. I was saying that earlier today, actually, that, when I was a kid and people would ask me, Eb, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'd say I'm playing in the NFL. And they go, oh, that's fun. That's a nice idea.
But what
What's
do
your
you
plan
really want
B?
to do? Right,
And I
right.
was like, no, there's no plan B. That's what I'm doing. I think that the burning of the boats, it's just another way to say you got to be the person you want to be before all the stuff happens. Just
Mm.
like we were saying. It's like you got to walk the walk, you got to talk the talk, you got to be that person. Because that's really when I look back at 13-year-old Eb, somewhere, somehow I knew everything I did, how I carried myself, how I walked, how I breathed, how I trained, how I ate, how I slept was I'm playing in the NFL. So I would never say that word, burn the boats, but I think it's just another way to articulate this idea in a hyper corporatized world that we live in that, is all about, you know, every, every corner you turn, there's another, self-development guru who's telling you got to burn the boats. And it's like, the fuck does that mean, dude? Well, you got to sell out on the dream. You got to sell out on the vision. You got to totally buy in. And you got to go, this is who I am. And everything you do is in accordance with that vision.
Mm.
And when you start aligning yourself to that, you align your energy to that and every cell of your being to that. then you start walking into those rooms and going, oh, this isn't on the path. This is on the path. This is part of that ride. This is not, you know?
Yeah, but again, then how do you sift through the wheat, right? How do you sift through that internal dialogue of the, and again, that's where it boils down back and going into those vacuums of stillness where you're able to navigate those voices, right? And say, oh no, that one, okay, it's telling me to do this thing. I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Because you'll hear all those different, quit the job, just do this. Do I mean, I'm speaking from experience, right? It's like all these different fucking shit. What do I do? You know? But I think you're absolutely right. I don't think it's necessarily, we live in these like absolutes. It has to be this one way, and I think everyone's journey is different. Like burning the boats might be for one person quitting the job, doing the thing, going after it. For another person, it might be just energetically aligning yourself with who you want to be and start taking those paths. Like change your energetic boats, right? Burn your energetic boats, burn your energetic relationships that are pulling you away from
Yeah.
arriving on the shores, right? And for another person, it might be an actual 3D action that you have to take. But I think that you're absolutely right. And it definitely adds this lens to it, especially when it gets corporatized and you hear the success stories of burning the boats. You're like, oh fuck, I gotta fucking just put it all on the table. And that's different for everybody.
Yeah, 100%. I saw a great clip the other day. This guy, I honestly, I don't even remember who it was, but he was talking about he's become really successful and he's just kind of like a blue collar guy. He does a lot of fitness stuff. And he was giving a talk and he was like, man, this just started because I wanted to help the firefighter community get into better shape.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be just super practical and super just like, and it's, and that was the thing that created this empire that this guy has built.
Yeah.
He was like, and like for you, man, it's like I just wanted to create a men's group. I
Right.
wanted to create a space for guys because I know I need it and I know this is necessary. And then all of a sudden it's this thing that's gaining energy and momentum, but it just started as this sincere want, this sincere desire to get to do something meaningful that you're also receiving that's fueling you as well.
Well, that's a
It's
big part of
fueling
it.
your
So
sense.
often you're just trying to figure out your own shit, right? You're just trying to solve your own problems. Like I just, I
Of
just,
course.
I just want to go to a place where I could do all the shit I love to do. Like it's that simple. Like I don't, it's,
Yeah.
of course it's serving of other people, but it wasn't until how many, years ago when I was doing this, I was like, oh, like I was telling my friend every day he was going through some stuff and he called me up. He's like, you gotta start a men's group. And I was like, I don't know what that means. What is that? What is it? Like I knew what a men's group was, but I was like, what the fuck? How do I do this? And I reached out to a few people I know facilitate everyman. They gave me some insights. I was like, all right, I like this. I don't like this. Okay, that's cool. And here we are 6 years later, and we're still
Amazing.
doing it, right? And
Yeah.
it really is just about, you know, figuring out the cure to your own disease, right? And
Mhm.
showing up for yourself truly, and then realizing that you're not the only person with this. Other people are struggling with whatever it is. And it's
Yeah.
that humanistic connection that you make with people along the way that allows you to open up in this really freeing, energetic way. And then if you're blessed enough to have a business model behind it and support and all of these things, then it does become something bigger than you could ever imagine.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And like you said, I think it's different for everyone and it comes in many different forms. But you have to start listening and paying attention because I think that's what really fuels the fire.
Mm. Was there ever a moment for you that you felt that you arrived as a man?
I'll tell you when I get there, brother.
Okay. All right.
I mean, it comes in small moments.
Sure.
Like my daughter, I have a 13-year-old daughter. She's at camp. She's at a sleepaway camp, picking her up on Monday. Uh, but they, she wrote a handwritten letter and they emailed it to me. And just getting that letter and reading her letter, I was like, it's all I need, dude.
Mm.
That's it right there, brother. Like, I have this incredible daughter who's just like an amazing human being, beautiful little human being who's like thinking about me and loves me enough to send me a letter. I'm like, I think I made it. I think I'm doing a good job. Because all the other stuff, it we run into the problem is it ever enough? Okay, my bench press is at 405, or I got that trophy or I did that thing. I think for me, I'm really fucking proud of myself, man. I'm really I'm really proud of the man that I am. I'm really proud of how I show up in the world. I'm really proud to be a man who has humility and yet can lead through example and inspire others, men and women, to, I hate to say be the best person they can be, but to be invested in their life, you know?
Mm.
And, I look in the mirror and I see a guy I'm really fucking jacked up to be. And that's taken time, dude, because I've looked in the mirror in the past and that has not always been the case.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a hard but beautiful place to arrive. Um, and I get that idea of it's cliche and cheesy, like, oh, make you the best version of yourself. But I think what for me, it's giving people the opportunity to look at life through a lens that they never thought they look at it through or forgot how to look at it through. When we do events here or guys leave this group and they're called back to going to church or brings them to therapy, or you get messages of how the space offered reverence and respite for people that are going through some major life shifts. You can't help but be proud of yourself. But then I'm also all right, we gotta move on we gotta keep on moving. There's no time to rest on the laurels. But there is something when especially when it comes to your children, they have, and I have a son and a daughter. My daughter, it's a different dynamic. It's a totally different relationship. And for me, I think my arrival, or a big part of that, and maybe it was a quantum leap, I don't know, was this, learning to respond versus react, right? When I realized that I was able and
Yeah.
I had an infinite amount of energetic and actual time between something that happened and how I show up in the
Mm.
next moment, for me, that was a line of demarcation in my mind. I was like, oh, this is part of, maybe for me, it was like arriving as a man, but this is part of being a man, is not just reacting. And everything since then has not been easier, but has been better.
I love that. 100%. That was a massive thing for me as well. And that's a superpower as a dad, as a partner. I mean, that's a superpower to recognize your ability to cultivate your capacity to be able to respond and not just react.
Mm.
It's a
Not always
superpower,
easy.
dude.
Yeah, not always easy.
No.
Fuck
Oh
that.
God, no. It's fucking well,
More,
maybe one of the hardest things in life, dude.
yeah, more times than not, it's not what's happening, but there are the opportunities, and you recognize, you're like, oh, especially when it comes to children, they test you in this way that is, you can't, it's
Yeah.
incomprehensible, right?
Yeah.
It's like, holy fuck, if there was one thing that
Yeah.
I could love more than anything but want to fucking kick down a flight of stairs, it is my children. Like, there's the depth of love that they have shown me and brought into my life is you can't even put into words, but my goodness, can someone press a fucking nerve like my son? Like,
No doubt, dude.
there's no human being that does it better. And
Uh,
it's beautiful, right? It's the beauty of it. It's the ultimate mirror.
no doubt, brother. No doubt. I mean, you can't really understand that until you become a parent, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I've learned so much becoming a father that wouldn't I know wouldn't have been possible if I hadn't, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
they are the ultimate window back into a time and a version of yourself that we've long forgotten.
mm,
And I think that when I'm able to observe them, and look at them just be children, I realize that my frustration towards them in moments is because I'm not that anymore, right? It's
mm,
because I'm not as free and as innocent and as pure
mm.
and as just receptive to the world, right? It's like I'm projecting my frustrations. It's never them. They're fucking kids, right? They're two children. It can't be
Yeah,
them. Like they're not maniacal little human beings that, sometimes people are
right.
like, well, they're manipulative. It's like, no, they're fucking kids, right? You're projecting your own shit onto them. Not, and that's the bottom line. Like, I do the morning routine. My wife's a teacher, so she's out of the house early. And, I've spoken about this before, but anytime that I'm like fucking frustrated, I'm like, we gotta get out of the fucking house. It's chaos. Right? It's because I didn't do the shit I was supposed to do. I didn't wake up early. I didn't get the work at it. I didn't get the good night's sleep. They're being kids. Now, is there turn off, dude? Yeah. Yes, of course. But if you really break it down, they're still just being kids,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
and I'm allowing them to frustrate me because the reality is that I'm like, fuck, I wish I could just drag my ass all morning and fucking watch cartoons in my underwear. That sounds fucking awesome.
No doubt, brother.